As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media that we decide they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve. I'm one of the hosts, and with me is former star of the Triple X Files. It's
Yahel. How are you doing, Steve? I'm sure that is a parody.
Oh, no, it is 100%. I mean, you know, it's...
Oh, did you look it up?
Yeah, it's right there in Chris Carter's IMDb, because it says...
I see.
Characters based on... so, of course, his name is now attached to it, whether he wants it to be or not. Happy... I don't know, I hate saying spooky season, but happy spooky season or happy Halloween season to you?
Happy October month, I guess. As you know, Steve, it's always spooky season for me. So,
I mean, you do have a coffin shelf in your living room. I mean, you can't get.
I actually just added a coffin clock to the living room too. This would now make it would be the fourth coffin-shaped thing in my living room.
Oh, man. I doubt that I'm going to have time to make it down to Tampa when we come to visit in December. But I bet if I did, I would walk in and your living room would just be full-on dungeon. You got your coffins, a couple of chains, some whips on the wall, your own hunchback. Like, I mean, are you allowed to call them that these days? I don't know.
It's good to have goals.
Spine disabled individual. Yes, that's what they like to be called these days. But yeah, so we're getting into the holiday seasons. Obviously, we got Halloween first, the best one, and then Thanksgiving, the most controversial one. And then even more controversial to some, I guess, is Christmas, depending on if you have money to buy shit for people or not. So what we'd like to do during these times is look at the holiday episodes of things that are, you know, pretty popular. Stuff like The X-Files, which even though it hasn't been on TV for a while, is pretty popular, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I also wouldn't say that it hasn't been on TV in a while, because didn't they do like a short-lived... X-Files series a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I was on the IMDb, that seems like that's not there. It says that the X-Files ran from 1993 to 2008, and I couldn't, there wasn't any information about the limited series there for some reason. When do you happen to know what year that came out?
Well, I know it was just like 6 episodes.
Right. It was.
I want to say it was like. Yeah, it was 2018. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's considered season 11 of the X-Files.
All right, so that means that I just wrote the wrong thing in the notes. Yes, it should be.
And it's actually 10 episodes.
Yeah, so, there you go. 1993 to 2018. So let's just go ahead and get into your history with the X-Files. Did you watch it? How long did you watch it for? Help me out.
Well, before I get into that, I'm actually seeing here that they did 2 new seasons of the X-Files.
Oh, yeah?
They're each 10 episodes, or excuse me, the first. So season 10 came out in 2016, and that one is 6 episodes long.
Okay.
And then they did in 2018, season 11, which is 10 episodes. Yeah, I mean, I used to watch X-Files. I don't know if I've seen every episode before, but... If I haven't, I mean, I've got to be pretty close to having watched them all. I watched the movies. I haven't watched these 2 new seasons. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I liked it. I was a fan. What about you?
Wait, is there more than one movie? I thought there was only one.
There's 2 I can think of right now. I feel like there was a third,
I know I went and saw the first one in the theater.
So yeah, there's definitely 2. The first one from 1998. Then there was X-Files, I Want to Believe. That was 2008. And then there's something here called oh, this is a documentary about the X Files. Never mind.
Ah,
But yes, but there are two movies.
okay. All right. Interesting.
Some fan. You better not tell me that you're a
Well,
fan.
I'll tell you that I was when it first started. In fact, like this is my first experience. I don't know, watching something that nobody else was even really talking about, and then it like blew up and became really big later. Um, because I just remember they were running the ads. I mean, and it had an X in it, and I was like, well, the X Men are cool, so the X Files must be cool, right?
Steve Musk over here.
Hey, this is long before he was still working in his daddy's diamond mine or whatever it was at that point, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
it's so funny though because like X being like a cool
It's
thing,
so 90s,
um,
so
it,
90s.
it's yeah, it's such like a '90s teenager
Mm-hmm,
thing,
mm-hmm.
right? So I just find it so emblematic of his often childfulness that of course he thinks that like X is like the coolest thing ever.
Right, but I mean, I would also say I remember the trailers, the creepy music and just like the fonts and everything. I mean, it sounded very intriguing. I'm talking about the teaser ones where they wouldn't even show what the show was about. They were just like, coming soon, the X Files. And I'm just like, whoa, that looks like right up my alley. And it turns out that it was. Um, and I don't know.
I don't know what it's about, but it's right up my alley.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the truth though. It was all in the font, man. It's all about that font.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, Steve, you should really, to complete your journey through the X-Files universe by watching I Want to Believe, and I guess those other two seasons of the X-Files. And we should mention that the X-Files is available for free to watch on Freevee
mhm.
with commercials. And unbeknownst to me, it's been remastered
Oh yeah.
quite nicely too. It's in full HD, and it looks great. Looks like they redid some color grading. Looks really, really good. If you have Prime, you can access Freevee through there, and if not, I think there's a separate app for it. But yeah, just make sure also, Steve, that you watch the X Files. I Want to Believe. All I'm gonna say, Steve, to whet your appetite, to perk up your X. I almost said your clit. I don't know why.
What the? Oh wow. Okay.
To perk up your X clit, if you
I
will.
think you're trying to say X
Uh,
boner.
yeah,
Okay.
maybe that's what I'm
Okay.
thinking. Anyways, Exhibit is in the
Oh
movie.
God. Yeah, all right. I didn't definitely
Exhibit.
did not see that one. You're talking about the sequel, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Do you think they hired him because his name begins with an X?
well, it wasn't because of his acting ability. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I don't remember how. I forgot he was in it. I don't remember how he. I know he plays like an agent.
Oh, I couldn't see that coming. Well, I mean, I will say though. All right, I did see, as I said, the feature film in the theater, and then something happened. I think after that, I just stopped watching. I don't know if they moved it to like Friday nights, and then I had to do band stuff or something in high school, and I just sort of lost track of it. I just remember coming back and trying to watch, and Mulder was gone, and they replaced him with Robert Patrick. Which I mean, I love Robert Patrick, but at the same time, I'm just like, can I really watch X Files without like Fox Mulder? And I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that those seasons are bad because at one point doesn't oh my God, what's her name?
Scully?
Scully. Doesn't she leave too?
Well, she left first because she got pregnant.
That's what it
That's
was.
why they
That's
did the whole she got abducted by aliens, and then she
right.
came back and her baby was gone, and that like plays into the episode that we're about to talk about here. And
Because at some point I remember there were just like three. It was like Robert Patrick, some lady, and some other guy. I think there were like three agents that were like kind of the focus of the show, and I don't think Mulder or Scully were any.
oh,
Anyways,
that's weird.
I don't know. It's been a long
Is it
time.
true?
I may be
I
misremembering.
I also heard that I can't remember if it's the like the season finale for the original season, but like the world ends, and yet somehow they managed to squeeze out those two additional seasons. Like I read that somewhere that like it ends basically with the world like being destroyed or something. Did you come across
What?
that?
I don't remember that, but
Well, let us know, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, because apparently we both stopped watching X
we
Files.
should
Like,
have done some
well, we
research.
did plenty of research on this episode, which that's what we promised. So we might as well get into it. You ready?
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
I will say though, Yahel, I feel like we missed out on another cross-branding opportunity. Just like with last episode, we were doing, Zimas with Xena, even though we couldn't find any.
We weren't doing that, but okay.
Because because they stopped making Xena. That's the only reason why we weren't doing it. I was thinking
Sure.
we could have gone Dos Equis with the X Files. Huh? Huh? Huh?
Yeah, sure. Or maybe just we could have just had porn playing in the Obscuritron. Lots of
What?
options.
What? What does porn have to do with it? Porn.
So the Triple X
Oh,
Files.
right, but that's not alcohol though. It's got to be. It's got to be an alcoholic beverage of some kind.
I mean, there's things you can drink if you're into it.
Okay, all right. Well, moving on with the X Files here. So the X Files ran from 1993 to 2018, 11 seasons long, 217 episodes, and we've seen maybe a quarter of them. And we are reviewing season 4, episode 2, Home, and its premiere date was October 11th, 1996. And after it premiered, it was immediately banned. So what's your experience with this episode? Did you see it when it premiered, or was it like me, where like I think 4 or 5 years later they repackaged it as a Halloween special, and then they premiered it again finally?
I've definitely seen it before. I doubt I saw it when it premiered. Because I mean, I ended up like watching a lot of the X Files after the fact on some kind of streaming service, or I don't know, or maybe I torrented. I don't know.
Xtube.
But so, yeah, X2. Wow,
Excellent.
that's going. That is, I don't even know if that's still around, but
I'm sure it's not.
anyway. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen this episode before. I didn't know that going into it, but once it started, I was like, oh, I remembered it. How about you? Sounds like you watched it when it was repackaged.
You got it right. Yeah, again, I don't know what was going on with season 4. Maybe I had already checked out on the X Files, but then I caught a commercial where they were saying, "Ooh, this episode was banned for 5 years." So of course I had to check it out, and I think at that time I was probably deep into my horror phase in high school. And also we didn't really mention that. I mean, aside from our regular review of the episode, the question we're trying to answer here is this episode scary? Because according to a lot of websites, this and other X Files fans, who I assume wrote the articles, this is allegedly the scariest X Files episode.
Well, the World Wide Web is never wrong, Steve. We do have, by the way, Creative KV here, who's joined us in the live chat. He said, October is the month to prove you're a real man. No fear.
Man,
Hey,
you
Creative,
could
thanks for
sell
joining.
that. Yeah, you could sell that to a lot of Halloween people. Because I've worked at a few haunts. I worked at Horror Nights a few years. There are people who are deep into the Halloween year round. Some of them even have caskets in their living room, I hear.
It's a coffin, Steve. Casket
Right.
has a lid that on a hinge.
Can we have next time I come over, can we have a casket match? Or you know what? In the spirit of TNA, we'll do a reverse casket match. What do you think of that?
Ah, yes. There you go. But yeah, there was something I was going to mention about this episode, and now it has eluded me. This episode was a lot more like gory than I
Yeah.
remember. I assume that's why it was banned. It's pretty graphic for
Network
the
TV.
time on network TV.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty edgy. I would say the main things that got it banned were, I mean, you didn't see too many dead babies on TV back then. Even if
Not enough. Not enough.
and I mean, even though, I mean, you kind of just got a hand of a baby corpse, but I guess that was enough. And then there's the whole inbreeding involved, which, you know, I'd say that's one of those things that's more icky than like scary. I mean, it's horrible, but I think I'm already like tipping my hand here too much. So I'll just go ahead and read the synopsis, and it's as follows. The remains of a murdered, deformed infant lead the agents to a family of murderous, inbred, animal-like brothers living on a secluded farm in a remote section of Pennsylvania. And this, as we said before, The X-Files is created by Chris Carter. He also created the shows The Lone Gunman, Harsh Realm, Millennium, which, did you watch any of those? Because I loved Millennium. I thought it was fantastic.
I remember starting Millennium, but didn't finish it. Creative KV wrote in the chat after your description. Yep, sounds like America to me.
Zing. But yeah, I love Millennium. I think I watched a few episodes of The Lone Gunman, but that didn't really do it for me. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, maybe if they would have had Exhibit in the cast.
He makes everything better. So this was directed by one Kim Manners, and I have to say I was reading a lot about working with her on set. Turns out she was very well mannered through the whole shoot.
Oh, it's great.
You love it. You love it.
Moving along.
All right. So she directed 51 episodes of The X-Files. She's had quite the career. Worked on the 80s show Riptide, Auto Man, which we need to cover someday. I think it's about a guy who turns into a van or something like that. And Yahel's favorite show, Star Trek TNG. One of our, well, not Baywatch Nights, but regular Baywatch. A couple episodes of Briscoe County Jr. and Yahel's other favorite show, Mantis. So this lady, she worked on, you know, she's just touched greatness her entire career.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of the stuff that we've covered. Like a lot of people have Mantis in their credits.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of weird. The show wasn't around that long.
No, like 1-2 seasons, if I remember correctly. And basically, also check out our episode on Mantis, everybody, if you want to learn more about Mantis. So the writers here are a writing team of Glenn Morgan and James Wong. And I was telling you, I gave old James Wong a call to try to get, his input. Turns out it was a Wong number.
Steve, what's going on, buddy? I know you're not excited about starting the new job, but is everything else okay at home? It's
great. It's all right, everybody. I have an Asian wife. All right, moving on. They wrote the script for Final Destination, the original, and for number 3. They also wrote for Millennium, the movie Black Christmas, and The One. Have you ever seen any of those movies?
No, I'm assuming that's the one with Jet Li.
Yeah, that's the one. All right. The comedy never stops here, ladies and gentlemen.
I wasn't making any jokes, Steve. You just started laughing because I don't know what's happened to your sense of humor today.
It's got Super Saiyan levels, if you ask me. But I guess we'll leave it to Creative KB. All right. So, who are the thespians who performed in this episode?
All right, so obviously we've got David Duchovny as Fox Mulder. He's been in a bunch of things. I guess the other thing he's probably best known for is Californication, I would guess, but he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Did you happen to see, I know it's probably on your list, some of his early work where California with a K with him and Brad Pitt?
No, I didn't.
Pretty messed up movie. You should check it out.
Okay. Well, then we've got Gillian. Is it Gillian or Jillian?
Pretty sure it's Jillian.
Gillian Anderson.
Who the fuck's name is Gillian? Someone on SpongeBob, maybe.
Funny thing is, I don't think I've ever called her Gillian until right now.
Now who's the
You're
one?
just making me.
Now who's messed up?
You're making. I don't think it's funny. I wasn't trying to make it. Anyways. I'm just glad you didn't make like a joke about being stuck on Gillian's Island or something.
You just did it.
The kind of comedy. I know. I'm saying I'm glad you did it.
Oh, okay. Too late.
Anyways,
it's out there.
Obviously, this is probably what she's best known for as Dana Scully.
Mhm.
Most recently, she's been on some show called Sex Education that has 32 episodes. It's been going on for like 4 years.
Wow.
Never heard of it.
No.
But I also know she was on The Crown. But she's been in a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
All right, up next we've got Karen Konoval, who plays Mrs. Peacock. I assume her husband is the Peacock Network from NBC. See, I knew that was a terrible joke, Steve, but I knew you would laugh.
I'm laughing because it's so bad. Because it's a non-comedy.
She plays Maurice in all of the new Planet of the Apes movies.
It was news to me.
I'm just reading what our production staff put together here, Steve. She's also she was actually in 3 episodes of the X-Files. I didn't look up what these other characters looked like, but I do want to give you their names, the other 2 characters' names. Little Judy Poundstone.
Okay.
And she also played Little Chucky Poundstone.
Oh, maybe is it voiceover work, you think?
Steve, the production staff did not feel like putting that together for
I'm going to
us.
have to yell at them.
But those other 2 appearances, they're in the same episode from season 11, one of our unwatched seasons. Anyways, moving right along. She's actually been in a shit ton of stuff, 139 credits.
For her.
Snowpiercer is kind of where I recognize her from. Up next, we have Adrian. What's your name, buddy? Adrian Griffiths. Adrian Griffiths plays Sherman Peacock. That's one of the brothers. He's doing a bunch of stuff, but like, always like guard number 2,
Sure.
piano cleaner number 3.
Wow, that's specific.
yeah, it's really weird. Exhibit masseur. Wait, masseuse.
Victrola
Anyways.
operator.
Yeah. Then we've got Sebastian Spence. He plays Deputy Barney Pacer. There's another guy that, like, when you see his face, you recognize him. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He looked really familiar to me, and I figured out he's in like 10 episodes of Battlestar Galactica. But yeah, he's had like a pretty wide and varied career. Then we've got Judith Maxey, who plays the wife of the deputy. Her name is Barbara Taylor. I wasn't even going to bring her up because she's not really in this too much.
No.
And wait a minute, why did I bring her up? She's not in Star Trek. Oh well.
That's the only thing that's important.
That's the only thing that would have
life.
made her a person to me. Anyways, but she's actually been in a bunch of stuff. But again, one of those people you don't really recognize. Okay, up next we've got Tucker Smallwood, who you will recognize. He's been in a million things. Again, he's like another Bruce Greenwood. He's like in everything, but never the leading man, never gets top billing. He's often playing like authority figures, whether it be like a lead scientist on something or a military guy. Like, it's always somebody in charge of something. But anyways, he has been in what's going on? Hold on. Okay. Let me get this together. Sorry,
Are you talking about your life?
It's not me, baby. It's IMDb.
Oh, sure.
All right. He was in 9 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise as the Xindi Primate Counselor. He was also in 1 episode of Star Trek Voyager as Admiral Bullock. Moving right along, we've got Chris Nelson, who plays one of the other Peacocks, Edmund Peacock. This guy has been in also, quite a few things as well. But again, you're not going to recognize him from anywhere unless you watched Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where he plays Treyjock in an episode. And then I thought I had one other person who was in Star Trek, but maybe I didn't. But that is the end of the Star Trek connections.
All right, here we go.
Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection.
Alrighty. So, you ready to jump into the episode?
Yeah. Let's jump in like a brother and mother in love with each other.
All right. You've been reading some interesting literature.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. All right,
No, I'm talking about the episode.
I know you are. All right, it's a dark and stormy night, and then there's a rickety-looking farmhouse looming in the distance, and then we're inside it, and it's very dimly lit. There's a woman who's in labor. The lightning illuminates like the creepy men who are around her, who've got messed up faces, but it's kind of hard to tell. I bet it looked. I bet it was even harder to tell back then with the standard definition what
Yeah.
people look like. But yeah. So she gives birth, and the men take the baby outside into the rain and start digging a nice little hole for it. And then there's a man crying the whole time while they're shoveling, and then before you know it, like the hole gets buried. They did the whole classic sort of Evil Dead shot of like burying the camera, which definitely adds to the effect. And then basically the X-Files theme plays. What did you think about the cold open here?
I agree. It's very, very dark. By the way, in the chat, Creative KV said that was the worst segue he'd ever heard, and he's unsubscribed. um, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. Very dark. I would say almost like to the point of kind of being annoyingly dark because you could really like barely see anything. But it doesn't last very long, and it's a nice little hook for an opener. What did you think?
Yeah, I loved it, and I really feel like this whole episode sort of follows kind of horror or like monster movie rules where they really keep those guys kind of obscured for as long as they can. So you're the viewer is kind of like, hey, what the heck am I looking at? Is this like some weird ape man or something? And then finally, like halfway through the episode, you see them in broad daylight, and they just look awful. But yeah, great cinematography, great atmosphere, and yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying that maybe it's a little too dark. But I felt that when the lightning flashed, it just sort of it added to the whole atmosphere and mystique. And so then we get the classic X-Files theme and opening playing. How did it hold up for you in 2023?
Oh, it's great, man. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of nostalgia for it,
Sure.
but I think it's great, man. I think it's one of the best TV themes in history. And I'm not saying from like a musical, standpoint, but to me, like a good TV theme should set the tone for the show, more so than it be like a great technical piece of music, if you know what I mean. And yeah, the X-Files theme, man, like it does such a great job of just like setting the mood and atmosphere for the show.
Yeah, I remember it was a big deal. I think they were the ones, at least I guess during this period, who had I don't even remember the right term for it, but where they showed the little sort of like phrases or government cover up, like paranormal, alien invasion. And I know a lot of other shows at the time sort of borrowed from that. I remember the Batman Beyond opening for some reason has that stuff in it. But I mean, it just shows what a trendsetter the X-Files were. I mean, everybody ripped them.
I mean, but who's got the better theme? Not just song, but also the video that goes along with it. The X-Files or Baywatch Nights?
Oh man, that is a dang. That's a hard question to answer.
Because I think you could say like the X-Files song is better, but I feel like the visuals in Baywatch Nights somehow are better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's different. Like, it's kind of hard to compare because for us, Baywatch Nights is like so bad it's good, and the X-Files.
Speak for yourself.
For the time,
it's so good. It's good.
Yeah, it is. It teeters on that for me too. I mean, because that's the Baywatch Nights theme is music that the style of music I actually listen to when I'm like driving. Basically. I couldn't imagine pumping the X-Files theme when I'm driving my car. Do you really want a straight answer here? I'm going to take Baywatch Nights.
Yeah, I think I would too. Maybe we should upload like a video with the X-Files theme playing over the Baywatch Nights
Ooh, yeah,
video, but still keep in Nights will never be the same again.
Like you just see Fox Mulder saying that at the end, like straight to camera. Like I can see it. I can see it.
Oh man, so Creative Carry was talking about the themes these teams that would have like the words like you were talking about,
Mhm.
and he was saying if they would use the that you wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't download a car like font or whatever that was so popular and to be edgy back in the day.
Right, right. Oh gosh, yeah. And then the ironic thing about those commercials that were created by like the movie and TV industry is that now with AI they're stealing everybody's art without asking. But
Yeah.
that's another podcast altogether. So back into the episode here. It's daytime, and some kids are playing baseball in a nice little cornfield. One guy hits a dinger. That means a grand slam, Yahel, in case you didn't know. Out
Oh,
in
I really didn't know.
he hits the ball very high, and it lands into the previously shot rickety farmhouse's property. And they all sort of just stare at it. And one of the kids goes, "Hey, it's on the Peacock's property." And they're like, "Well, forget it." And they just bring out a new ball, and they're about to hit another dinger, if you will. I've never played baseball in my entire life, so I don't know if this is how
Oh,
baseball.
it doesn't show. You can't tell.
Yeah, good, good, good. So
You're a real Jose Canseco.
he's I'm a real Terry
Nolan
Bradshaw.
Ryan-esque in your delivery.
Well, I'm all hepped up on
Terry Bradshaw, isn't he football?
exactly. I prefer to think of myself as who are the guys who are all hepped up on roids? I'm one of those guys. All right.
Oh, McGuire.
Yeah, there you go.
You're like McGuire.
All right. Gonna hit this ball, and then
Yeah, Steve had half a bottle of Androstein before.
and adrenochrome as well.
Yes.
So yeah, the batter, I believe that's the proper term, is like digging his shoes, which I believe is also the proper term, into the mound, the dirt of the mound. And as he's digging it, blood pours out. And then the camera pans down and we see a baby's hand. And then there's an awesome transition to Mulder just picking up the ball, and while he's investigating the dead baby and everything. And then Scully shows up. She measures the hole. And then we are introduced to Sheriff Andy Taylor, who is the local law. And let's see, the name of the town that they are in is actually called Home, I guess Home, Pennsylvania. And Sheriff tells us that the Peacocks, they don't have any electricity. They built that home back, I guess, during or after the Civil War. And he doesn't want them to question the Peacocks because they are feeble. And then it also really leads to, I guess he's afraid by talking to them, they're going to go on a murderous rampage and ruin their sweet, quiet little town. What did you think about all that?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, kind of generic, kind of tropey, the redneck hick, inbreeding Hills Have Eyes type of people. Like, I guess the Hills Have Eyes is more like due to radiation, right? Is what they're deformed. But,
It's a good mix of Hills Have Eyes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I'd say that's right. It's a little generic and tropey, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. I mean, it's just you could tell, the writing team were obviously horror and genre guys. Their ideas for this episode were X-Files versus the things we just mentioned, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Hills Have Eyes, basically. And so, yeah, where were we? Okay, so they go to the police station. They examine the baby corpse. There's a bunch of stuff wrong with it. Scully tells us because of the years of inbreeding. They leave and go sit on a bench. And there's usually one moment in like every X-Files episode where Mulder and Scully kind of flirt with each other, like inadvertently. Right. And this is definitely it.
I hated this scene on the bench.
I figured you would. I don't know. It's just to show their sort of relationship, don't you think? Or you don't like the comedy, Mulder's comedy?
I don't know. It was. There were just like a couple lines. I should have written them down that I just thought were like kind of odd. Mulder just like randomly asks Scully like, "Oh, does your family have any genetic problems?"
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I would say at this point they had already been working together for so long that everything is on brand for them to talk about, basically.
Yeah, but then Mulder after Scully's like, nope, we're perfect Aryans in my family. Uh, after she says that they're fine, Mulder's like, oh, everything's fine in my family except for my sister getting abducted by aliens. Har har har. Like, why are you making a joke about that? I don't know. Just thought it was a little odd. Um, and also then like the scene like has a real weird line at the end. I thought it was weird when like because Scully basically talking about like wanting a baby someday.
Mhm.
And as she goes to leave, Mulder's like, hey Scully, I never saw you as a mother before today.
Mhm.
I mean, why? It's like she did something motherly or anything. Like, I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's just because I guess it's got this dead baby has got her, thinking about the baby that she lost when she was abducted, even though she had in real life. But I would say that I think the reason why that scene is there is because we just spent a scene with like a baby corpse, and they're trying to like lighten the mood a little bit, basically, because I mean,
I guess so.
this whole episode is pretty dark, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, it is pretty dark, both visually and thematically. Creative Cave in the chat has such a good suggestion that I can't believe neither you or I have ever thought about it because it's so fucking obvious. Creative Cave wrote, by the way, if there's one thing that would be helpful as a viewer of this channel is to put the episode of the thing you're covering in the stream title, especially if you're coming in late.
The stream.
Yeah, that is a great
I mean,
idea.
that must.
Yeah.
Is that you mean for like Twitch or?
Well, I know on YouTube you can put like a title.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I'm gonna have to figure out how to do later. But thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, that's maybe in the interim in the future next show we can always like pin a comment. You would have to leave a comment saying what it is and just pin it to the chat.
Sure, yeah, we'll figure it out.
But thanks, Creative KB. No fear.
So what were we?
No titles.
What were we talking about?
So they just finished awkwardly flirting on the bench.
All right. So yeah, they Mulder and Scully flirt with each other. All right. Now they're at a like a hotel room, basically.
Like your stereotypical crappy motel.
Living goes down on the bench. Mulder. Let's see. Scully finds a matching boot print. We see some creepy. Where is the hotel part? Ah, man, I'm totally thrown off now. All right, so yeah, beach. Mulder and Scully flirt with each other, talk about genetic defaults. Mulder and Scully go to the Peacocks. All right, so they're not at the hotel room yet. They go to the Peacocks. They see blood, so that gives them probable cause to go inside. Scully finds a matching boot print, and then they leave. They say, go put out an AP, tell the sheriff to put out an APB for the Peacock boys. And as they're leaving,
yeah, and there's like a bunch of like blood around this place. I think don't they find like the umbilical cord?
I think basically, I mean, the interior of this place, if it hasn't been expressed enough, is like what you would imagine like your typical hoarder like sort of place would look like. Just like crap everywhere.
There's like flies buzzing around.
Yeah, at one point Mulder holds up a newspaper talking about Elvis or something.
Yeah, like his death, and it's pristine.
Yeah,
which I thought that was really interesting. That was like the one thing in the house that was pristine. But yeah, and also I would describe this house like I don't know if you've played Resident Evil 7. But it looks like the house that you go into the interior. Like it looks exactly like it, to the point where I almost wonder if it was inspired by it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it all goes back to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, but a long time ago.
So let's see. All right. So yeah, as they're leaving, they pan over, and like hidden in like some weird crawl space of the house is this darkened figure, and we can only see he or she's eyes. Then basically they cut to the commercial, and then they come back, and one of the peacocks are, I thought they were siphoning gas, but I guess they were gassing up this like sort of classic. I don't know if it's a
Like an old white Cadillac.
yeah, it's exactly what it is. And then the three peacocks go for a drive, and now we're with Sheriff Taylor, and I think there was a scene earlier where he was looking at his gun, because that's one of the big things for the sheriff is that he doesn't want to disrupt the harmony of home, which is why I guess all these years he's left the peacocks alone. And he tells Mulder and Scully that he doesn't even wear a gun, so he doesn't want things to change. But you see him later. He takes out his gun and looks at it because he knows stuff's going down. But then ultimately he decides to put it away. Like, what do you think of that choice in that scene?
I mean, it's dumb. It really doesn't make any sense, and it kind of makes the sheriff look inept. And maybe that's what it's supposed to be, that he's just so wrapped up in this idyllic, view of his home. But I mean, I feel like they kind of went a little overboard, hammering home that he wants things to stay as they are. He doesn't want the town to change and blah blah blah. But I did want to point out that Creative KV the chat had mentioned another great description analogy for the Peacock family house, very similar to Neverland Ranch.
Oh, you've been there, have you? Have you, CC? Oh, well, we'll have to have you on and tell us all about it.
Yeah. But yeah, and one thing we didn't talk about is that, like, when they're talking about the baby or whatever, like Mulder and Scully do have this discussion about how, like, Mulder thinks it's just kids getting rid of an unwanted birth, and that it's not really like doesn't really fall under FBI jurisdiction. But because Scully thinks that that it's possible that a woman is being held captive against her wishes, it's kidnapping situation, which is FBI jurisdiction.
Yep, well said.
According to Chris Carter, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one weird thing when I was watching this. I was like, is this FBI regulation? Is it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, everything you could look up anything you want now. Thanks. I mean, I know the internet was around back then, but it seems like.
Well, it's not the same.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And shows I feel like are, I don't know, at least shows like this, the ones that are procedural, are more realistic these days. I don't know, at least in terms of following the rules.
I mean, and ultimately, X-Files is a science fiction show, so you got to give them a little bit of leeway anyway.
Sure.
But yeah, but in the house, one thing that we didn't mention, maybe you were about to, is that when they're getting their evidence, the bloody boots and whatever, there's somebody watching them from like under a bed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mentioned that when they leave, they pan over and show the person's eyes. Remember?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't listening to you, Steve.
You're too busy.
I was probably reading the
with
chat.
It's
Creative KV's fault.
Yeah.
It's Creative KV's
I'm gonna
fault.
blame him for all the problems in my life. But moving on.
Real men don't listen to their co-hosts. No fear.
Man,
I actually had a No Fear shirt and I forgot to send it. But next week.
So basically, what we think is going to happen. Oh, but also I like. Okay, so not only does the sheriff not take his gun, they also show them. All right, he's hanging out on the porch, like looking out into the darkness and
of his house.
Yeah, of his house, and his wife is like, what are you doing out here? And he's like, oh, I'm just taking one look back before it all changes. So this is after he's gotten the APB for the arrest, or to be
because Mulder and Scully called him. The person that was like under the bed heard him.
Yes,
and Mulder and Scully were like, "Hey, bro, we need you to put out an APB. We need warrants, for the Peacock brothers."
So he has no choice. So he has to do it. At the same time, all right. So there's goods and bad things about this. So he obviously knows that these Peacock people are dangerous. So once the APB is put out, I mean, I guess he wouldn't think that they would be dangerous enough to come after him and his family. But he must have been thinking about it, because he was looking at his gun earlier, and then I guess it's his wife that fails to lock the door. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. They go when she's like, "Oh, come inside," blah blah
Hmm.
blah, and she closes the door. They do a long zoom in on the lock to show you that it wasn't locked.
I love, you keep saying that it's like over the head, this script. It kind of beats you over the head with stuff. And it definitely does. I mean, you've seen The One and some of those other movies these guys
Yeah.
have written. It's like subtlety is not their strong suit.
No,
And I
no,
think that's
no.
perfectly fine for this episode, which is X-Files meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But
It's okay. No, no. Like I said, I mean, I do think it was a little bit much,
mhm,
but I don't. It doesn't like take away from it. I guess it just makes you. And obviously they were trying to create something where they're foreshadowing
mhm,
that because things are going to change, something's going to happen to the sheriff.
right.
But there's a difference between foreshadowing and practically telling
Sure,
you,
yeah, these guys don't.
and they're on that line, man.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I was like,
By the way, Creative KV came up with a much better way to express me not listening to you on a No Fear shirt, which is assert dominance.
no
Do
fear.
it like a dog. Wait, no.
Still
Assert
going?
dominance. Do it like a dog.
No fear. No
Which,
fear.
which sounds like a legitimate no fear.
I know
shirt.
you're too good at this. We're gonna have to relaunch
You-
the line. Um,
yeah.
but yeah.
All right.
Conversely,
So yeah, she leaves the door
mhm,
unlocked, like a fool.
mhm,
Even though her husband keeps talking about, oh, things are changing.
right,
But
right.
then they go to bed. Oh
Mhm.
wait, no, no, no. Actually, we cut to like another scene, don't we?
Well, I can't remember if it's after or before, but they show Mulder and Scully in the hotel room. And Mulder's trying to watch like scrambled nature videos on like the CRT TV that doesn't even have cable, which I don't know is kind of funny and weird. But yeah, basically Scully goes to leave after they have a little chat, and she's like, Mulder, the lock on the door is broken. And he's like, "Oh, Scully, you don't have to lock the door here." And then after she leaves, he puts a chair under it. Because, Mulder, he doesn't trust anyone. Am I right? That was like his old
Yeah,
little
yeah,
catchphrase.
yeah. And that actually happened before the porch scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking at
So,
my
I mean,
notes
either
here. So
way,
yeah,
it's just, I guess it's just contrasting the two different characters. It's like you got the seasoned FBI people from the big city. They don't trust nobody. And then you've got, the small town sheriff who's resistant to change. And in the end, it kills him because basically what's up next is that the Peacock Bros, they drive their fancy classic Cadillac to Sheriff Taylor's house. They beat him to death while his wife watches, and then
yeah.
it's
Now he gets to get beat over the head with something.
Tozy.
Bats, baseball bats.
Now that's
So
comedy.
yeah,
Uh,
and it's actually like pretty gruesome. The way it's shot. Again, for network TV back then. It's pretty tame these days, I guess, but and it goes on for quite a
mhm,
while, which I think is what, because they don't show you like his head bashed in,
right.
but there's a lot of blood and there's a lot of strikes, and yeah, I think what makes it feel brutal is just how long it goes on.
For sure. And I really like the lead up to it. It's like because it's gonna happen, and you want someone. Like, it's like, oh, is somehow Mulder and Scully gonna show up and save them? No, 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 no. They
Yep.
both end up getting murdered. And I didn't even think about this. Since I'm already talking about it, I'll bring it up. Creative KB. If you look at the Obscuritron, the thumbnail pops up into it, so you can see what we're covering. Just to let you know for the future. But so yeah, the next day, Mulder and Scully examine the bodies of the sheriff and his wife. The deputy offers to take Mulder and Scully to the peacocks, and then they show the peacocks eating bread. And then the creepy-eyed person. Should we just go ahead and reveal who the creepy person is?
Sure.
Yeah, basically it's revealed to be their mom. One of the big things is that previously in the episode they just say, "Oh, there's nothing but the Peacock brothers who are there. The parents died in a car accident, so how could they give birth to a baby?" And yeah, basically she's the answer to the question. And she basically gives them kind of like a rallying speech. It's like, this is their home. They got to prepare because now they have to experience change because the FBI is coming down on them. And let's see, Mulder and Scully and the deputy converge on the house. I love how, and Mulder actually makes fun of him. The deputy is like, like, let's go get him. And then he leaves.
Yeah, he's like, well, with me, it'll be 3-on-3, and these will give us an edge. No fear.
it's just a regular gun, man. But I mean, I guess he's not.
In fact, maybe we can put out a no fear shirt that's just the gun, and then underneath it says no fear.
I'd buy it.
Sure, that'll sell out here in Florida, I promise
you. But yeah, so what? And I thought Mulder was funny. He was like, "Ooh, that's a little too Charles Bronson for me, Scully," he says after that. But then they go anyway. Yeah. And this is when I start to question, and I shouldn't. You should just go with it. You shouldn't question. I was just like, if like the real FBI would wait for backup. Like, did they have like a reason why they couldn't wait for more FBI people, or if they just wasn't going to happen?
I guess because I don't know. Maybe they never say it. Maybe it would just take them too long to get out there. Maybe it's because there's they feel like there's a woman being held against her will that they need to rescue, and they've already murdered. They've already committed 2 murders. That we know of.
Didn't want him to get
3
away.
If you count the baby.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I guess that's the reason, because Scully was like, they, could have a woman there held against her will, like they could do anything to her, so they have to get out there pronto. So there was a reason there.
Yeah. I know you don't care about kidnapped women, Steve.
And I know you don't care about kids, so it's all good.
Oh no, I was like, dead baby, great. Yeah. Tell me more.
Don't you have a subscription to Dead Baby Illustrated? I'll see you at Dead Baby Con 2024, brother.
Oh my god. Right. Yeah. I'll never mind. There was somebody in this cast. Actually, it's the guy that plays the sheriff. I was gonna mention that he was in an episode of Silk Stockings.
Silk Stockings Junior.
I was gonna ask you if you knew if he crossed over into Silk Stockings Junior.
He was a principal at the school for like 1-2 episodes.
Silk Stockings Junior moving to the Fox Kids Network this fall.
Oh man, too good. So all right, basically the overzealous deputy tries to basically walk right into the front door, and he's rewarded with an axe to the chest, or was it straight to the neck? I don't know. He gets an axe somewhere. So now Mulder and Scully, like, not affected at all. But I mean, I guess they are seasoned FBI people, so they're probably like, when the camera's not on, it's like, Scully, look at that, another dead, dumb deputy. And she's like, I see that, Mulder. I don't care.
Mulder doesn't care about anybody's deaths this episode. Like, it's real weird.
Yeah.
He's very, like, matter of fact about everyone's death.
Yeah.
He's like, yep, the husband and the sheriff and his wife, yep, they're dead.
Right, yeah.
The Charles Bronson guy, he's dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, this empathy isn't this writing team's first strength, I would say. But, yeah, so basically, Mulder and Scully, they hatch a plan. They're like, oh, we don't want to go in there because there's obvious traps, so let's get them to come out here. So they release the pigs. And that gets all 3 brothers to run out of the house. Then you finally get to see them in, like, broad daylight. How would you describe, like, the makeup effects here?
Before I do, we should mention that it was established earlier on by the sheriff that these brothers raise their own food, their own pigs specifically. So these are like, there's like a pig pen that they're being kept in. The makeup, like the guy that's bald looks pretty decent, but the other 2 brothers, the makeup job's not. It's okay. I think HD did it no favors.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Let's see. So
it looked better when it was like in the dark and shadows.
Absolutely. I mean, that's
you just caught glimpses of it because in broad daylight it did not look great. And I'm sure part of the reason why they didn't I don't know, maybe spend more time or money on the makeup is this was going to be out on standard definition,
Right.
over the air signals. It wouldn't have looked as bad.
I'm sure, yeah, at the time that
So
was like the standard, probably. So Mulder and Scully sneak into the house. Mulder avoids a trap at the back door. They find someone trapped under a bed. They pull her out. She has no arms and legs. That's the aforementioned creepy eyes. It's the mom. And they discover it's the peacock's mother. And like that was like a big reveal, basically, because the question is, where did the baby come from? Well, it came from their mom. And I mean, I remember when I first watched it, I was like, yeah, that's kind of disgusting. I mean, it's really disgusting.
yeah, sorry, I'm laughing because in the chat, Creative KV wrote the makeup artists were gainers, a reference to Chris Gaines.
Gainiacs.
There's a Star Trek podcast I listened to, and Chris Gaines came up on it the other
way.
week. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. They brought up like the whole thing about how like Chris Gaines has like, or Garth Brooks has like more unreleased music. But anyways, the reason why, sorry, I know this is a bit of a sidetrack, but one of the three hosts on that podcast, this whole time they all knew who Chris Gaines was when the one guy brought it up, but one guy this whole time thought it was a different person.
Oh, nice.
And it was just like, what? So there's like this 10-minute aside they go on where this guy just can't believe it. Can't believe
That's
it.
funny. So Scully tries to talk to Miss Peacock, ask her if she needs help, blah, blah, blah. Let's get you out of here. And yeah, that's basically when they do the big reveals. Like Mulder, he says, oh, we're going to take you home. And then Scully's like, this is her home. This is the mom. Oh, and then cut to...
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, they show like a picture of the lady that's like on the picture on the dresser or something.
Right. And then basically Scully stays with the mom, and Mulder goes out to watch the brothers while they round up the pigs. And then basically, like we're in the finish here, like the brothers come back. There's basically a gunfight, and Scully empties a clip into one of them, but it still doesn't stop him, basically. Like, what are your...
I hated that.
Well,
like he's inbred, like he's not Superman.
nah, but it's you know what they used to call that though, right? Something strength.
No, I don't, Steve. Would you like to say it out loud?
Well, it rhymes with
no, but
yeah,
like but like the guy doesn't even like react.
No,
none of them
he
do
gets
too.
hit,
Getting
but
shot
he just gets back up. Like, I mean, in the world of like horror movies, especially back in like the 90s, I guess it kind of works, but of course it doesn't work in real life. Like, I mean, their bloodline would have been wiped out like years ago. They wouldn't even make it this far if this was real life.
I just I don't know. It was so unbelievable. It really took me out of it for that scene. Like it was pretty ridiculous.
I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
And we should mention, I don't know if we really dove into when the deputy gets killed. He gets killed with like a Home Alone style trap. And there's basically other Home Alone style traps set in the house. That Mulder and Scully are. So there are Home Alone traps that can kill you.
I mean,
basically.
they are they're hunting traps basically that they put indoors. Like they're not like slipping around on micro machines.
No. But it is like, oh, this wire is going to make something swing around, and but instead of it being and hit you in the head, but instead of it being like a bucket of water, it's it's something that can impale you.
Right, yeah, it's an axe blade and that actually comes back and kills one of the brothers, and and basically the other one and mom gets away, and we see them and they're driving away. It's like dark in that on a dark stretch of road, and that is they drive off into the moonlight. And mom is talking about how they need to go and start a new family because you can't keep a peacock down. And that is the end of the episode.
Yeah, his mom's like, I'm horny. We're gonna do this again.
See, I think this episode would be a good to anyone who gets off on like incest porn. This would be a good way to get them off of it, possibly.
Okay. I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah. Don't you
Steve,
kink shame?
I was gonna save this, but another thing that Creative Carey had written was that when we were talking about tangents, real men go on tangents because no sane man would stay pale.
No fear. Well, I've got a great farmer's tan going, so I don't need to be offended.
Well, and then Mulder and Scully like have a little conversation because, like you mentioned, the older brother and the mom get away during the melee where the brothers are taking bullets,
and getting right back
they're
up.
basically bullet sponges. Yep. But anyways, afterwards, Mulder and Scully are just like, well, they'll find them in time.
Yeah, it's like
That's literally the line. It's like with the description and the car, they'll find him in time. And then Mulder's like, I think time has already gotten.
Ooh. It's like in wrestling when the two wrestlers run out of or one wrestler runs out of the ring and the one stays in, but for some reason can't get through the ropes because the other one's walking up the ramp. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Like, I would have gotten you.
Yeah, but I'm behind the ropes. I'll get you next time. So yeah, that is basically the end of the episode. Are you ready to render your verdict?
Yeah, let's do it.
Remembered or overrated? That is the question.
All right, Agent Velasquez of the Triple X Files. Do you think that Season 4, Episode 2, Home of the X-Files, should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? And do you think that it was scary? And do you think that it was one of the scarier X-Files episodes?
I'll tackle your last question first. I didn't think it was scary, like at all. Now, was it creepy? At times, and kind of like you said earlier, more ick than anything. But I wouldn't say it's like scary. I was actually kind of on the fence about whether or how to judge this episode because it's not bad. But I feel like everything you could like telegraph from a mile away. Like I think it's pretty obvious from the beginning that it's going to turn out that it's another family member that's having these kids, these babies. You knew that they were going to end up being like murderous, like inbred, mentally challenged Hicks kind of trope. So, and like I said earlier, there's some like weird stuff with the sheriff that doesn't make sense, and like they're bullet sponges, which I hated. But I'm gonna say overall, keep it. It's kind of, from what I remember, it's pretty different. I haven't watched X-Files in a very long time, but from my recollection of it, it is pretty different from their usual stuff. So I'll give them, credit for doing something a little different. I'm kind of surprised at how highly rated this episode is on IMDb. It's rated like an 8.8. I wouldn't even put it like in the top 50 episodes of X-Files I've ever watched. It'd be kind of towards the bottom for me. But X-Files is kind of a lot like Star Trek. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. So I'm going to say remember it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for that very thorough answer.
Yeah, sorry, that was very long.
No. Hey, that's why we're here. So yeah, it's since I haven't watched any X-Files in a long time, it's hard to compare it for sure. Like I'm pretty sure the X-Files, the other episodes are a little bit more subtle than than this one is. I mean, it's obvious that
there's like no mystery here, and that's usually a big part of the X-Files episode. Right,
for sure. But as far as like a Halloween episode to like revisit on Halloween, basically, I think it works really good in that regard. As far as like just sort of straightforward, over the top horror, I mean, something like this on network TV in the 90s, I mean, there was that didn't really happen too much. And even watching it now, I'm like, oh, this is pretty edgy. So I really appreciated like the cinematography at the beginning.
It's very well directed. Well, the cinematography is nice. I questioned some of the direction, like in terms of like what the actors were, I presume, directed to do. Because like Mulder's usually not so cold and uncaring. He's not the warmest guy in the world, but he like literally like did not give a fuck if anybody lived or died.
He
it was
too
real
busy
weird.
cracking jokes. Yeah.
It was real weird.
Right. I mean, this was
It made him seem like a psychopath.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, that seems weird because the director. I mean, she's worked on others. I almost feel like it's got to be somewhere in the script. Like these are obviously like big idea, like plot guys, and not a lot of like sort of subtlety and like human feeling kind of guys.
Well, the thing is, like, she's also was a producer for like 159 episodes of the series.
Yeah.
So it's not like she was just a one-off director. So yeah, maybe I don't know. And I'm not saying like Mulder should have been like boohoo crying over like these people he just met that died, but
Right.
he wasn't even like frustrated.
No.
He should be frustrated that like the sheriff died. They needed him, and like that the other deputy died. Well, now it's 3-on-2. Like, it's like he doesn't care one way or the other.
Yeah. No.
And when your one of your main characters doesn't care, why should you as the viewer care? That's
right. Yeah.
that's one of them things that made me really almost say this should not be remembered. But
yeah, they
we'll
were
let it slide.
both very unempathetic for the both.
Well, Scully does care when the deputy gets killed. She's like trying to warn him that and stuff, and she like yells out, "Oh, he's dead!" Like she's like, "Oh fuck," and Mulder's just like, "All right, I guess we'll have to figure something else out."
Well, David,
baby,
it was reported that David Duchovny couldn't find enough women to satisfy his sex addiction prior to the recording of this episode. So blame it on a lack of hot and cold running women. I mean,
I see. Well, funny enough, Creative KV just wrote in the chat, "I can relate." Now, maybe I'm sure he was referring to something else, right? To being cold and unfeeling. But in my Creative KV headcanon, he's referring to his unrelenting, unquenchable desire for women.
Yes, of course. Well, I mean, doesn't it rest within all of us?
I mean, I am not going to go.
I mean, you literally had women chained up when I was visiting last time. Like, come, and they wanted to be there. They wanted to be there.
They're actually X-Files home reenactors. We were LARPing.
Cosplayers, you mean?
We were LARPing.
When you call
it's a little bit more.
When you call them reenactors, it sounds like it's Ren Fair people or
like Civil War reenactors.
Yeah, like something in Colonial Williamsburg.
Yeah, it's a little more involved than just throwing on a costume, Steve.
Oh, is that how it is? Well, I definitely want to hear more about this later, but all right, I don't even think
I'd rather keep the evidence to a minimum.
Okay,
but
do that. All right, so yes, I liked it. It deserves to be remembered. I don't think I was actually scared. It's more of like a kind of feeling. But I mean, I could definitely see why this got banned back in the day, as I previously said. Will I ever watch it again? I don't think so. I mean, once you've seen it once, that's probably enough. Like, how about yourself?
No, I wouldn't watch it. And again, it's so like predictable. I think this is, if you've never seen it, sure, throw it on for Halloween. The nice thing about this episode is you don't need to know anything about the X-Files. So I will say it's very much a standalone episode. There's very little of the other stuff in X-Files that's touched on. So, yeah.
All right. So for all those reasons, it shall be remembered. In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
I do see Creative KV here in the chat had written that we scared Smoke Monster away with our fan fiction. For those that are just listening, Smoke Monster is another frequent friend of the show, friend of mine as well. But yeah, he usually pops up in here. But I think us we've kind of been inconsistent with the times that we've been doing it the last few weeks.
Yes. It's not.
And you can blame me for it today. And the fan fiction. Yes. By the way, Kim Manners directed a terrible episode of TNG from season 1.
Oh, really?
So,
Seems like
yeah,
she was real ill-mannered on that episode.
And with that, folks, I am resigning from Obscurity Now.
You need me. You can't walk away. This is
See,
the only place
Mulder had showed this kind of emotion.
This is the only place that allows you to be the real you. And next Sunday I'll be a slave again. Oh boy. Anyway.
Well, what are we covering next Sunday? Do we know? I know we've got.
We'll talk about it afterwards. I don't want to waste Creative KB's precious time anymore. Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, do you have anything else to talk about before we sign off here?
Nah, let's get out of here. Hope everybody enjoys a spooky October, Steve.
Yes. Don't forget to check out my paranormal audio drama, Ray Can't Sleep, if you like a good scare and a good laugh. All right. For all of us here at Obscurity Now, we'll see you next Sunday as we continue to unearth even more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next week. I'm having a weird day. The name's Adam. Where I'm from, I'm known as the Zero Thief. Depending on who you ask, some might say I'm the best thief. But believe it or not, even the best screws up every once in a while, and that's what I did, and I had to make a fast getaway. I ended up crash landing on this bizarre planet. Turns out, I didn't get away fast enough. These winged freaks followed me here.
It's just us here, Zero Thief, on this empty backwoods planet. So start talking, either to me or my blade.
Okay, I do have something to tell you. It's about the planet. It's not that empty. Come on, man, I thought you were gonna duck. Cut me loose! Behind you! Whoa! I thought I was done for. It was gonna be a light snack for a snarling creature, but then she showed up, riding on the back of one of those monsters like it was nothing. And with a wave of her hand, the other razor-toothed beast just stomped away. I'd never seen anyone like her before in my life. I thought I'd say something clever. Thanks, have you seen my ship? She gave me a look that said more than words ever could, because I think she was trying to read my mind or something. And from there, things just got even weirder. Escape to 36 pages of insane dinosaur action. Issue 1 available now at reptilianmedia.bigcartel.com. Featuring a variant cover by Sean Forney. Hack now while supplies last. You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.